Are you a South Asian man? Did you grow up in the West? Have you heard of shows like this? Then you may have heard of the South Asian internalized racism problem. Effects of this may include falling victim to the pseudoscience known as the red pill, and or having a deeply ingrained dislike for your own race. And I'm here to tell you why. But first, let me tell you what is internalized racism, you may be asking. And for that, we have to go to this article. Internalized racism is a form of internalized oppression to suppress one's own racial identity. It is a systematic way for people to detest themselves on a racial basis and is debated how it can be sparked. And for South Asian, it's pretty clear why. We have to just look at our past with, the good old British colonialism. You have to look at what they did with the caste system when they reintroduced it and put themselves on the top and encourage the notion that being whiter or more lighter skin was better for you and your social status. That trickles on to this day, even after we got independence, with things like Fair and Lovely. That skin lightening cream is popular in South Asia because it lightens your skin, and that, according to them, makes you better looking. That's the type of colorism that's still in effect to this day. And personally speaking, I've had my own experience when I was a kid. I was let know when I was real young. The other kids that I was darker than them, and then they were lighter skinned, so that meant it was better. And this journal goes really well into it because it shows that these type of things, the media, our own perceptions, the past, it all combines, and that's what contributes to that internalized racism problem we have in South Asia today. And the Western media has it so ingrained into us with things like The Simpsons or Mindy
Yeah,
Kaling
boy.
that have a lot of South Asians that feel lesser than, like, they had to go out and prove that they're not like that. That forced a lot of South Asians who have that internalized racism in them to start going away from their culture, their roots. And they even did a study where they asked these type of questions to young South Asian people, and the study speaks for itself. It shows that South Asian representation is poor, and a lot of them have this feeling that they're not enough. And a lot of these stereotypes that we find in these TV shows are projected out into them, which they feel. One question was really interesting. We had asked, how do you feel about South Asian stereotypes in the media? And an overwhelming 100% say it's negative. With all of that information in mind, we have to talk about what happens when some of these dudes take it too far, who have this such a internalized racism problem that they turn to inceldom. So we're talking about Indian incels. And I've talked about it as well in one of my earlier videos covering these black pill forums where they refer to themselves as curry cells. I also talking about how shit their life is because they're Indian or South Asian, and that gives them a disadvantage against all the other races. It's just sad to see a brown brother go out like that. I really want to help them, but when they're in that paradox, in that black pill hole, it's hard to get out of. You have to do some real soul searching and figure out why you think like that. And a lot of these guys, they dwell in these forums and have this support system that they think no one else knows about. And that's why they get so deep into it. So I believe that's one of the paths that internalized racism can lead to South Asians becoming like that. Another path they can go down is what I like to call the Nikki Haley route. You remember her? The women who no one knew was Indian until she had to explain it to
Anyone that wants to question it can go back and look at what I've said on how hard it was to grow up in the Deep South as a brown girl.
And look at this picture of her from her childhood. Beautiful Indian family who immigrated here. And look at her now. Yeah, I know her ancestors are rolling in their graves after seeing that one. How do you become so brainwashed, so disillusioned that you think that's okay to write that on a bombshell, bombing civilians? But that's another topic. What I really want to discuss on is how that internalized racism can lead to you becoming like that, completely disregarding your identity, Americanizing your name. Her name isn't even Nikki Haley, it's like Nikita or something. So that's another thing. Just completely disregarding all of that and then conveniently bringing it up in debate so you can get that South Asian vote. I mean, come on. That's how it affects us internally. Now I want to talk about how it affects us externally with relationships and stuff. Looking at this study that examined Asian women and their dating preferences, a lot of them tend to lean towards white guys. That's what comes from that colorism problem I was talking about, where they think having a lighter skin tone is better. Along with that, shows. The opposite can be said for the guys too, who have that internalized racism problem, where they only go for white girls and they're obsessed with having white girls. I remember seeing this one video about this TikToker from Shaji Sharma who was so obsessed with white girls he ended up stalking them, and he got, in police trouble with that. It was just like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? But it was one of the examples that shows that we really do have this thing where we worship one race and put them above us. And that's not to say you can't fall in love with different races. Like, anyone can be with anyone. But when you do, really look at, like, are you fetishizing them or do you actually like them? That's the thing. At the end of the day, you're asking, what can we do to make this better? Well, it's already kind of getting better. We're having more representation, more directors, more actors in the South Asian field going into that TV industry and making a name for themselves without being that stereotypical character. Best example I can think of is Dev Patel, and he made a movie and stuff, and that was great. But if you're a Gen Z like me who grew up with those shows and stuff, really start looking inside and seeing why you think that way. Go back and visit the motherland and see how it is, and that's how we can change. And it's gonna take some time, but I believe we can do it. And one day, if who knows, maybe it'll be a different world. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.